So it's official, MLP Generation 5 is cancelled, and I feel like everyone is really mixed on this news, because there are people who are really happy that G5 is over, but on the other hand there are people who are actually upset about this news. But today I don't want to talk about that. No, today I actually want to talk about one of my favorite stories that came out of G5, because this single arc fixed everything wrong with G5, from the characters, world building, and lore. So, let's begin. But I know what you're thinking, why is this the best G5 story? Well, simply because they take this story seriously. I don't know if this is just me, but something that always bothered me about these stories in G5 is that they never took them seriously, or in the other hand, when they took it seriously it was really underwhelming. Like the Make Your Mark finale, a cool idea but a really disappointing conclusion. And the ones that actually took seriously became some of the best and most memorable stories in this generation, and Set Yourself is no different. Let's begin with this story. What's the story of Set Yourself? Well, it takes place after the 10th episode from season 2, where we see that after Izzy met Destiny she began to research sea pony culture and legends, where she ended up getting obsessed with them and began to tell Sunny about the legend of the Galloping Ghost, and also started asking Misty to find a spell to breathe underwater. With Izzy not waiting long until Princess Kalili invites Pip to the Sparkling Sea, with Izzy tagging along with her. And from here we go underwater, where we learn that things are not what they seem, and we follow two stories. One where Sips investigates what's happening on the Sparkling Sea with Anemone, where we learn that Queen Kalili has been lying to her subjects because she's been using a spell to hide the ruins of her kingdom and basically wanting to destroy the trench ponies. Which is our secondary story, where we see Pip and Izzy exploring the Shadow Sea and learning about the trench ponies, where we see that they never were the bad guys in the first place. These two stories joining at the end in a pretty good finale. And that's basically the story of Set Yourself. Overall, a great story, one that actually gave me a pleasant surprise, either because of the story, which mirrors exactly what happened in the surface with the ponies, or the themes that the comic tackles, like trauma, prejudice, and how hate can affect the life and future of others. To the message of the story, which is not to ignore your problems, because nothing in life comes easy. You need to work on yourself to improve yourself as a person, and no, hiding your problems or blaming others for your actions and mistakes is not a solution. A message which I feel is important for anyone to learn, but of course this is not the only thing great about this comic. Something that a lot of people, including myself, didn't like about G5 were the main 5, but more specifically how they were portrayed, with a lot of my issues coming from the fact that the main 5 outside of the movie didn't have established personalities, with my only exception being Misty. And this comic does something that I really wasn't expecting, and that is that this comic gave us new personalities for our main characters. With Sunny being a bit more rational and logical regarding magic and about the sea ponies, Pip still being an influencer but with a little bit more of an attitude and even willing to defend herself in some situations, and the character with the biggest change in this comic and my favorite one is Izzy, with her being more fascinated about legends, movies and books, and basically Izzy in this comic acts like if someone mixed the personalities of Twilight, Pinky and Quibblepants. Which I know that it sounds like a downgrade compared to the Izzy we saw in the show or in the movie, but honestly these personalities fit her perfectly. So what about Sip, Hitch and Misty? Well, Sip stayed the same as how we saw her in Tell Your Tale, and even bringing back her detective mode into the plot of the story. This is also the case with Misty, who actually uses her magic skills and knowledge to help Izzy and Pip transform into sea ponies. And finally we have Hitch, which doesn't get a lot of time in this comic, but the times we do see him, we see that the writers blended pretty well the silly and heroic aspects of his character, which in my opinion is way better than the one we saw in both Tell Your Tale and Make Your Mark. But the main 6 are not the only characters we get in this story, as we also get a lot of new characters like Princess Kalili, Anemone, Captain Starboard, and the voice of the Seven Seas, the sea pony who provides the tunes to the entirety of the Sparkling Sea, the one, the only, DJ Darkwater, or Mary the Crow. A character that quickly became one of my favorite characters in G5. I just love everything about her, from her design, personality, and the fact that she is the equivalent to DJ Pawn 3 in G5. And she even became an essential part of the story, which I found pretty cool. And finally we have the world building. The world building we get in this comic for the underwater world is honestly quite good, and honestly I think that this is way better than what we got in G4. With this underwater world feeling lived in and alive, and almost feeling like a completely different world, where we see the city of the Shining Sea, the creatures who live here, and the sea ponies, and even how technology might work down here. An aspect that I wasn't expecting for them to explore, but I'm glad they did, because they do something new with the idea of technology, where they not only implement the creatures to the technology itself, like jellyfishes used as energy or a communication source and clamshells as phones. And the overall feel that I get of how technology is down here, it reminds me of how technology was back in the 2000s, which is a nice contrast from how things work back in the surface. And overall, if you couldn't tell, I love this arc, with my only complaint being that I feel that the ending of the comic was a little rushed, but at this point it's just an epic. And I would highly recommend this comic to anyone, because there's a lot to love here. If you're a G5 fan, this is an awesome comeback to the underwater world, with an awesome story and fun characters. And who knows, maybe one of these characters will become one of your new favorite characters, as it did with me. And for G4 fans, we get a lot of lore that we didn't get in the show, and a far better underwater world than what we got in G4, and the best main 6 interpretations in the entirety of G5. But hey, this is just my opinion, but what do you guys think? Did you read Sugarflake? And what's your favorite G5 story? Leave it down in the comments, and remember to like the video and consider subscribing for more MLP videos like this. And remember, take care guys, I'll see you in the next video.